Hey guys, it's Ryan here from Sailing Sunday. A lot of you guys have been asking me about this $1,000 Watermaker that does just shy of 100 litres per hour. Damn! So I'm going to take you through exactly how I hooked it all up, the wiring diagram, all the parts that I used, the price of the parts. I pretty much got everything online, so if I can make this in the middle of a COVID lockdown in Sicily, I think I did a bit more in Tunisia, and I finally finished it off in Sardinia, then mate, you can do this too. So let's go through it all. I'll take you step by step exactly what's up with this Watermaker.
Woo!
So the first thing you need to do is work out where you're going to put this Watermaker. We chose the back starboard lazarette. The pump we use can give us a lift of 1.5 meters, so we try to keep everything underneath that height. For this location though, I had to build a couple of shelves, but with a carpentry background, that was easy. So the main parts that form your Watermaker is going to be a 12 volt pre-pump, which feeds water into your high pressure pump. Between them, you're going to need a 20 and a 5 micron filter dough to filter out the water before then finally going through your reverse osmosis membrane, which in our case is a 2.5 inch by 40 inch tube, which will then go through a pressure gauge and a needle valve. You'll crank up to 800 psi, which will then dispose of the salt water through a separate through hole, leaving you with fresh drinking water to use. But you know what? We'll go through that section with the switchboard a bit later on. So you're probably sitting there right now going, whoa, like what the hell does all this stuff mean? But what we're essentially doing is we're converting seawater, salt water into fresh drinking water, which is pretty cool. So just to recap, the sea strainer is going to move the large debris before it enters into your 12 volt pump. The 20 and the 5 micron filter will clean that water further, protecting your high pressure pump and your reverse osmosis membrane, because they're the most expensive parts of this whole system. So let's go through these parts in more detail now. Keep in mind, our boat runs on 12 and 220 volts. Some of you guys might have 24 and 110. So just make sure you check that out when you jump online or go in store. So first up is a 12 volt pre-pump. This is the one we used, but the most important part is you want something that's a continuous running pump that's rated at 35 litres per minute. And we paid about €120 for this pump. Next up are the pre-filters. These are just standard 10-inch sediment filters. You're going to need a 20 and a 5 micron. I'll put a link in the description of all this stuff below for you guys. This brings us to the heart of the whole system, the 220 volt high pressure pump. Now we have a cat pump, which is one of the industry leaders, and we're running that with a 2 horsepower motor. We actually got this from a friend. But before that, I was looking on eBay for a used one for around a few $100. This runs off of our 5.5 kVA generator we have on the boat. Up until now, we've just used standard 16mm hose throughout the system, but once you exit the cat pump, you're going to need a hydraulic high pressure hose, which we actually got from a forklift factory in Sicily for about $40. That was the 2 of them. With that, we need to use stainless steel high pressure fittings also, which we got from a worldwide company called Vitillo, which were actually based in Italy. Just keep in mind guys, there's different threads. You're either going to have BSPP, BSPT or NPT. So this depends on where you buy the product from, is what type of thread it's going to have. And you can't mix the threads or you'll get leaks. Pressure vessel we bought from the UK from a company called Phoenix. I think that was only about $250. But the actual membrane that goes inside the pressure vessel, that was worth more. I think we paid around $300 for that delivered. We bought them both direct with the company. Now the final piece of this puzzle is the food grade tubing for the fresh water. And if you want, you can add a TDS monitor, which stands for Total Dissolved Solids. That measures the purity of the water. To install one of these, you just cut the tube, put it in a T-piece and plug it in. The best thing about the one we got is that it's battery operated. So I hope you guys are keeping up, because we're almost there. Next up is the electrical system, which is pretty straightforward. So let's go through that one now. Hey mate? Okay, I've got to be honest, I did mine slightly different to what I'm going to show you using solenoids and thinner cables, mainly because I couldn't find the right switches. But if you don't know what you're doing, I don't want you to burn your boat down, so I'm not going to even try and explain that. Basically, if you just run your cables and your switches to work for 20 amps, you're going to be sweet. For the 12 volt pump, it was quite simple. I essentially just ran a line straight from my house batteries into a circuit breaker. From the circuit breaker, went through to a switch. From the switch, went to the positive of the pump, and the negative just went straight to the house battery bank. Piece of piss. Now the high pressure pump runs on 220. So I tapped into our switchboard for the generator. We ran the live to neutral back through to the switchboard on the Watermaker that I put on. That goes through a circuit breaker, up to a 20 amp switch, and back through to the actual high pressure pump itself. A lot of guys told me don't bother about connecting the earth on the high pressure pump, but we had an earth on the boat for the generator, so I just tapped into that as well. And as mentioned earlier, the TDS monitor is battery operated. So that's it guys, that's our Watermaker for around about $1,000. I mean, We already had the cap pump and a few extra fittings, so let's just round it up to about $1,500. You guys got yourself a Watermaker. Now, it's not pretty, it's super straightforward, but that's what we wanted, because we keep hearing stories of people always waiting on parts, something breaking down. With ours, it's just stupid simple. It's just like A, B, C, done. And that's how we wanted it, because we're going to be in some remote places where we want to be looking for parts. We want off-the-shelf pieces to just pick up at a local hardware store. Or the local forklift factory, because they tend to sell high pressure stuff. So we'll quickly go up the back, turn it on, we'll make some water.